just how I function with Google Classroom. So I'll just quickly open that up and then we'll wrap it up. So as I mentioned before, I have 4 teaching assistants in the classroom. I'm so beyond lucky and blessed to have all of them. They're all amazing. One of the things that I wanted to do to support students is to have whole group mini lessons and then breakout rooms with individualized support. So that was something that I crafted and wanted to ensure, because a lot of the students in my classroom have severe needs. And so I really wanted to make sure that they were getting that individualized support daily. And so what we can see here is we have a 2nd grade breakout room, 3rd grade breakout room, 4th, and Mrs. Dickinson, who's a class TA, she has a breakout room. And I would stay in this meet link with students. So after our ELA mini lesson, we'd break out. Mrs. Grasecki would take 2nd grade, Mrs. Carrizio would take 3rd, Mrs. Geary would take 4th grade, and Mrs. Dickinson would take some other students, where I would just say, here, I'm going to have you work with Mrs. Dickinson today. So students had opportunities to stay in their grade cohort, but also get a mix. And then, of course, I would have students as well. So students would have a whole class of 8 students and then have opportunities to have 2 students in their group. Sometimes there was even 1 if students were absent. So as I mentioned before, planning was really important to me. I wanted to ensure that the TAs knew exactly what they needed to do, how to support the students, and how to navigate through technology. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was being able to establish a clear routine. So one of the things that we did in the classroom, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as far as work was students knew they had these activities every day. They had morning meeting, they had foundations work, they had independent reading, they had some sort of writing task, and then math and an independent math time. And so one of the ways that I gave math when we would go full remote is I broke up students into 3 heats, so to speak. So at 1 o'clock to 1:30, I had 2nd grade. 1:30 to 2 o'clock, they were in their breakout room with their 2nd grade teacher. Then I would take the next grade, 30 minutes of teaching, then they would have a breakout room, 30 minutes of teaching, and they would have a breakout room. And so I felt that it was really important, as I mentioned before, to give them that one-on-one time, or that small, much smaller group work time. So students were able to get, daily instruction, and the routine was very consistent. Families could follow it. Students can follow it very easily. And then, of course, I made myself as available as I could. So when students had a question, we hopped on the meet. If parents had a question, or they wanted to talk about an assignment, or they wanted to talk about something that was really challenging in their life at the moment, having to juggle work, having to juggle quarantine, and all of those things, I really wanted to make sure that I made myself as available as possible. And so, as I mentioned before, this year alone has really grown my craft. I've had to kind of separate myself into all these different compartments. I had to be a 2nd grade teacher, a 3rd grade, and a 4th grade teacher, a special education teacher. There were times that I was like being a mom, and giving kids lots of love, navigating behaviors. At the beginning of the year, I had students who were throwing desks and punching and scratching and hitting, and so I've been able to really decrease a lot of those behaviors. The other thing that I wanted to mention, again, was just how important it is for me to reach out to related services. And so that's something that's been another real blessing. Also, when going remote, being able to communicate with them like, okay, great, are you going to take this kid at this time? And I'll make sure that they're in your Google Classroom, and I'll make sure that, the meeting is going on at the right time, and just navigating all of those things. It's definitely been a whirlwind, and I've appreciated the ride, and I just look forward to continuing to learn. And, this year is my 5th year teaching, but I feel like any teacher would say this year feels like the longest year ever. So, I think that this has just grown my teaching. It's allowed my pedagogy to grow, and it's allowed me to really just put my stamp on my classroom and get to know myself more as an educator, and get to just know my students and get a great feel for what special ed is. And so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming and stopping by my tenure binder. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.